Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Flying Cat Marketing interview series. Today I have Kate Erwin, who's head of content at Contract Book, and I'm super excited because today we're going to be talking about 3 ways to use social media for organic B2B growth. And I feel like this is very relevant right now because we're all trying to find the best bang for our buck, and organic social media is so powerful. So, hi, Kate. How's it going?
Hi, wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Enjoying the day. Summer just started. So, I'm happy.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. I actually have after today, I've got 4 days off.
Oh,
Yeah.
are you going to go anywhere special?
We're doing a staycation. So we're gonna travel in our area.
Nice. I need to do that more often. I always leave if I take a vacation, but staycations are a good way, especially if you really act like a tourist in your own
Yes.
area. Go see the
Oh yeah.
museums. Fun. Excellent. So, Um, let's talk about it. 3 ways to use social media. I know that you have 3 ways that you use it. Let's go one by one. So I know you've spoken a lot about using social media as a content testing ground.
Yes, yes. And I love social media is so great because posts don't really last very long in the algorithm in the feed. So some people think that's a bad thing, right? Some people think, oh, I want my post to live on forever, but I think there's a freedom to it where you can kind of test out concepts without a lot of risk. So I love especially because, again, in B2B, LinkedIn is one of my favorite places to test content. My audience lives there, hangs out there. So just kind of putting out ideas before you invest into, say, a blog or especially an ebook or a webinar that takes more resources, more time. For example, a few months ago, I had just started at this job and I didn't really know what the audience wanted. We had some research internally, but I didn't really know what they wanted. I hadn't seen what they were reacting to on social. A lot of
Hmm.
our posts were a little bit more formal, but I kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit. But you don't want to mix it up too much and then ruin all of your all of your results, right? So kind of tested a few different concepts and then saw which ones got the most conversations going, got the most reactions, and then started building out more long form content on those topics. So it's a fantastic place to really take risks.
Do you actually plan the content? So you say, first, I'm going to test I have these 3 hypotheses, for example, and then you plan
Yeah.
that and then you build a long-term content strategy from that, or what does that
Yes.
process look like?
Yeah, so for me, I'm not really the best at process. I'm like a chaotic creative. So for me, basically it's coming straight from my brainstorm doc before we put in that extra time. So let's say I have a brainstorm doc and I go through and I say, okay, these are my favorite 3 topics, but who knows how they're going to resonate, right? Like I might think it's a brilliant idea, but not every thought is a gem. So then I'll test those out and kind of see how they perform. So for example, one of the things that performed really well recently was the idea of legal having to sign off on every deal and how much of a pain in the butt that is for salespeople.
Hmm.
Had a post about it. I thought it was going to do really well, but again, like I didn't know because I've had other ideas that I thought were going to do really well and they flopped. So that one did really well. So then we're going to build out, a blog post on that topic and talk about how, recovering lawyers say that you don't need legal to sign off on every deal. And then, do a webinar, do like basically content that is a little bit, again, takes that investment.
Nice. So when you're testing, it sounds like you're only testing topic ideas, but
Mostly.
yeah, you're not testing format or those kind of things?
Well, we do a lot of format. We try to do as much on social, like as much variety of format on social as possible. But I think that for the most part, like it's, we again, like testing those topic ideas is sort of the easiest lift. Like we also do a lot of video on social. I love TikTok personally because that's a great place to not put a lot of energy into something. You can usually create a
Yeah.
TikTok in like a half hour versus needing a video production team. So if you do want to test other formats, highly recommend that. Because again, it's all about like using the fewest resources when you have that initial thought.
I actually love this approach to it because people are thinking, oh, I have to build a perfect plan. I have to publish something on LinkedIn 3 times a week and it has to be perfect. And I really have to overthink it. And actually, that's going to prevent you from doing anything nice. And just having this approach to actually, my plan is to test as many different topics as possible just to see what gets people to bite. Then you have way more content to publish and it's way easier to just get things out there.
Absolutely. And I do love that. I think on social, I'm never wondering what to post because I guess I probably should overthink it. And I just want to preface this by saying I have been working mainly at startups and scale ups where you have a lot of freedom to have that. There's not really an approval process. There's not, like I'm sort of the final word. So I can kind of get creative. Obviously, like if you have a team where, you have to vet everything, it's going to kind of cause some roadblocks. But
Yeah.
if you do work at a company that is where you have that kind of free reign, then definitely go for it.
What variables are you looking at to decide whether a piece of content would be worth or a topic would be worth turning into a webinar or an ebook?
So I think I'm mainly looking for are people do people have anything to say about this? Because like there is, you can post something and it can get a lot of reactions, it can get a lot of likes, and I think if it resonates with someone, they'll like it, right? So if they feel connected to it, they'll react to it. But I actually don't always want that. I sometimes want people to disagree with it or to have something more to say so that then those webinars will be more interactive because
Hmm.
otherwise, like a webinar could easily be just a video. Like there's no
Yeah.
reason to do it live. There's no reason to put all that effort into scheduling it at a certain time. So really I'm looking for like, is this a conversation starter? If so, we might want to do a webinar or something more interactive. Is this something that is going to resonate with people? Then maybe we do some piece of static content around that. Maybe we do a blog or maybe we do just a long form video that's not live.
Do you have any great examples of something that was just like, oh, maybe this will work, I'll throw it out there, and then it turned into an amazing series of content?
Ooh, I wish I did. I would say, um, one of the things that I'm rolling with now, I wouldn't say it hasn't already turned into an amazing series of content. And this actually goes into the third topic that we're going to talk about, but is all about the idea of like a verbal agreement versus a signed contract and like how you get from that verbal agreement to that signed contract. So that's something that I'm currently testing out how to do it because in lots of communities, that's what salespeople are talking about. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to contracts, it's like how do you get from that verbal agreement to that closed one to that signed contract? So TBD whether or not it will turn into a full series, but I'm in testing now.
Love it. Do you actually test it? Like, if you tested one topic, that would be one whole other piece of content, or do you kind of break up, oh, this is going to be chapter one and let me test other topics for chapter two, for example?
I wish I were that organized. No, I feel like that sounds fantastic. That's a great idea, and I will use that now.
Excellent. So let's move. So, point number one to wrap up: use social media as a content testing ground. Don't be afraid. It has a short half-life, it disappears quickly, and you can get fast feedback. And then you can create
Absolutely.
bigger, longer living content from that. Social
Absolutely.
media tip number two, or second way to use social media for B2B organic growth: content partnerships. Talk to me about this.
Yes. So obviously this doesn't just live on social media. But social media is a great place to get your content to have legs. So for example, if you know of a company that's doing really well on social media, especially if they are encouraging their team members to post and their team members have their own individual audiences and personal brands, a great thing to do is tap into that audience and do a collaborative piece, whether it's a video or a blog post, something like that, and then basically have all of their team and all of your team post about it. And it works really great. When I was at Mailshake, we did a piece with Chili Piper because Chili Piper really focuses on perfecting that inbound lead process, and Mailshake was all about sales engagement and outbounding. So it was basically a really good, collaborative piece where we had, kind of both inbounding and outbounding
Mm-hmm.
covered, and then encouraged all of our team members to post about it on social. So again, like it's just a great way to give your content legs. Obviously, in addition to like repurposing, just making sure that when you have that initial launch of that piece, as many people as possible are posting about it. And this can work really well for also not just full companies, but if you have a particular influencer that you're connected with, and again, you have that common ground in terms of audience, kind of leveraging that connection,
Mm-hmm.
and working together, basically putting your powers together to get that wider reach.
So do you need to be, how do I say this? Like of equal popularity?
No. That's what's great. You absolutely do not. I would say that not a lot of people know who I am, at least not yet, hopefully someday. But it doesn't seem to matter. What you have to realize, though, is if somebody does have greater popularity than you have to make sure you're giving them probably more. So, for example, at Mailshake, what we would do is we would consider ourselves kind of a content arm for another company. So if we wanted to start a partnership with somebody that we thought was out of our league, we would just offer a lot in terms of our own services.
Okay.
So we would say, hey, we need you to promote this to your big audience, but we'll create the content for you. We'll do all the work. We'll do all the heavy lifting. So things like that. Or if you're talking about partnerships in which maybe there's sort of an affiliate program, if you have something like that set up, just making sure that you're giving them a reason to want to share that content, besides just being a kind person.
So when you say you have everybody on both sides of the companies, like you would have your whole team sharing the content, and then how do you get how do you get the agreement, okay, your whole team is also going to share all this
Yeah,
content?
so I think sometimes it works better than others, right? Like so sometimes because there, even though I work at like a contract company, like we don't sign contracts on it. It's just a good faith agreement where we, just send an email, "Hey, is this good with you?" The way that I kind of look for companies that I think will do this is just seeing if they're doing it already. Again, like if it's somebody like Chili Piper, they've got a great program in place where their whole company is amazing at kind of rallying the troops and getting everybody engaging at, at at launch time. So just making sure that it's a company like that, or again, like just hoping that kind of that they do what they say they're going to do, basically.
Yeah. What about your team? How do you provide them with copy to be able to share?
Yeah, so my former boss from Mailshake, Alessandra Calaci, she had a really good plan in place, which I am continuing now with my current team, which is that you give them the intro and the conclusion, but then you kind of let them create their own body. Not
Okay.
everybody is great at developing hooks. So making sure that you're giving them that hook for their post. and you give them the CTA, but you don't necessarily control what's in the middle. You let them kind of do their own thing.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I'm not very controlling in terms of like what people post. I would prefer for people to create their own content, but if they need help, I'm also happy to provide sort of like examples and a template that they can pull from. But then that ensures that you're not having like all the exact same content everywhere. So we just did a rebrand launch last week, and I just gave them a prompt to create their post. But then ultimately they created a wide variety of posts.
Yeah. And where does that live? You would just put that on a Google Doc?
Yeah, so we have Google Docs you can use. We also use Notion. So you can have everything in Notion, and then just let people know that it's there. And then we just let everybody know in Slack at our company. So we have a channel
Nice.
in Slack. It actually has kind of turned into a spam channel, but it's just called Like This. And it's an automated setup. So every time that a social post goes up, it lets everybody know. And then if people post their own content in there too, then we all jump on and engage.
Oh, excellent. So we're going a little bit off topic now, but I'm
We
just
are.
so
That's
interested
okay. I like
in
this
how this
topic.
works. How do you have that audit? Like, how is it connected to, it's connected to everybody's social
No. So
profiles or how?
unfortunately, everybody's individual social accounts are not connected. They have to manually post that. It's only our company accounts. And I believe,
Okay.
so I am not our RevOps person, but I believe it's all just through HubSpot. And then there's a Zap that gets it into Slack.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right. So, content partnerships, what's your key takeaway? Wait, I'm going to ask you two questions. First question, what's something you wish you knew when you started doing content partnerships? And second question, what's a key takeaway that you want people to walk away with?
I think one of the things that I wish I knew was that you actually can probably reach higher than you think. People are just people, and everybody has something that they're trying to do. So if you can tap into what they're trying to do and you can assist them, there's not necessarily like, you can kind of have uneven amounts of fame, right? And still work together. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And what was the other question?
Love the answer to that first question. The second one, what's a key takeaway that you'd want listeners to walk away with about content partnerships?
I would say the key takeaway is do it. Like, the key takeaway is just make sure that you like it's like let's say that you have a baby audience. Content partnerships are a really great way to grow that audience immediately, right? Because not like building an audience of your own is kind of like a long-term process. That's something that you do over time, and content partnerships can kind of give you a short burst of audience when you need it in the immediate term.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So now point number three, how, the third way to use social media for organic B2B growth, social listening. Let's talk about social listening.
I'm just obsessed with it. So I think social listening is really the key to creating content very easily, to making your job easier. So for example, I myself, right, for a sales audience, I have never closed a sale personally. So you have that imposter syndrome of like, how am I writing about this? Okay, I'm doing a lot of research, but like, how do I know that it's the right research? How do I know that, what I'm providing is actually helpful when I personally have never done the thing that I'm
Yeah.
talking about. So social listening is a great way to kind of pick up on the questions that people are asking in kind of smaller communities. Obviously, like, Google already tells you what people are searching for on a grand scale, but if you're kind of looking to tap into more of a niche, following some of those people, like following your actual audience, and then also following influential people that audience is already listening to is a great way to kind of see what comments and what questions are already popping up. And that can just be a super easy way to find, again, the right topic, to find the right questions and the right answers, and then just curate
Yeah.
that content based on that.
This is interesting. I feel like now that you're at Contract Book, it might be a little easier because your audience are salespeople. Salespeople are super active on LinkedIn. You can also find them easily. When you were at Mailshake, isn't that much more of a kind of horizontal audience? What did you do for social listening there? How do you know who
Yeah.
to look for?
Yeah, so I would say we definitely we didn't only focus on social. We also focused on different communities, and kind of listening in those communities. So obviously, social listening is typically like social media related, but if you can find the right communities, that works as well. So for example, and this is not one that I'm closely connected to, but I have a friend that I used to partner with at Mailshake, and she works in manufacturing. So she would have these manufacturing communities that she would kind of hang out in and listen to. So I would say again, like if your audience is not necessarily speaking in public spaces, find out where they do connect, where they
Yeah.
do speak. So yeah, for example, I have a client that's in facilities management. So there are a few communities in facilities where those people hang out and those people talk. They're not as much like posting on LinkedIn the way that like
Yeah.
salespeople and marketers post on LinkedIn. They're in these like smaller communities. So just making sure that you're listening where it's appropriate.
How did you discover these facility management communities, for example? How do you figure out that they exist?
Thankfully, the client already told me about them. So,
Okay.
like for that client, so I work with them through a company called Sincere, and Sincere at the beginning of all of our projects, we have a brand immersion where we learn as much as possible, and we ask those questions to the client. We say like, because they know the customer better than us, right? So like we just ask, or hopefully they do, I should say. Thankfully, this company did. They're called Facility, and thankfully they did know the customer. But basically, yeah, we do that immersion and we ask them where their customers hang out.
Okay. And so for social listening, um, isn't it? Do you have a process for not just going on LinkedIn and scrolling to doom, but just making sure that you're able to spend the right amount of time following the right people?
Yeah, so obviously there's the little bell that you can click on somebody's profile if you want to follow them. So when I find somebody who's kind of regularly posting on the topics that I'm looking to tap into, I'll just tap that little bell and follow them. The other thing that I just do in general is just make sure that I'm engaging with the content that I actually want to see more of, because obviously like the LinkedIn algorithm's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you can, if you're liking, if you're commenting, and then those are already great things to do to support the creators that you care about. And
Yeah.
also, when you're commenting on posts, that's content as well. So yeah, if you're giving as much as you're taking, you're going to get the experience that you want for the most part.
And on top of that, if you're giving like that, engaging with people, then you actually can build those relationships. And then if you want to go beyond social listening and do content partnerships or
Absolutely.
interview people, then you have that in as well.
Absolutely. I'm always shocked, or like even like with you and me, like I mean, I know we know each other also from Rev Genius, but like a lot of what we know each other from is LinkedIn. And it's interesting that you feel a connection to people that you've never
Yeah.
met in person, that might be halfway across the world, but because you are reading their content every day, because they're consistently kind of like a part of your life, you feel like you have that connection. So again, in terms of also punching above your weight class too, like if you can establish relationships with certain more influential people, then through just engaging with their content, then that is a great way to do partnerships and kick
Absolutely.
those off.
Definitely. Well, I think that that's a good place to wrap this up, unless you want to just say one key takeaway from social listening. What should people walk away with?
I think just it makes your life easy. Just don't, I think of yourself as a content marketer, as a curator. You know, we're always thinking about creating. Think of yourself as somebody who's curating that perfect experience for that audience that you're
Yes.
serving. And you know that you don't always know the right answer, but that you're the one who's going to find it. You're the one who's going to uncover it for people and guide them to it. Um, and yeah, that's really what social listening is all about.
I love that. All right, Kate, thank you so much for your time. This has been amazing. If anybody enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did if you're listening all the way until the end, please do follow Kate on LinkedIn and TikTok, right?
And TikTok, Kate creates content, which is a pretty uncreative TikTok handle, but it's very literal.
Yeah, I would follow you, but I'm not on TikTok. I have not crossed that line yet.
That upsets me, but it's also I get it. It becomes such an addiction, and then you play that game of like, oh well, I'm doing social listening, or like I have to consume content to create content. I
Yeah,
have to understand what's going on in the culture, and it's really it's yeah,
it's
it's
I
enabling
mean,
behavior.
I see the TikTok replays on Instagram.
Good, you're one of those. Yeah.
Uh, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And if you enjoyed this episode, please let us know. Share it, leave a comment, say something, say hello. And thanks again, Kate. I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
And that's the end of the podcast right there. Hope you enjoyed the episode, but please don't go just yet. If you did enjoy this episode, please leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It'll help other people like you discover us and get the same insights, and it would really help us out a lot. Thank you for being a loyal flying cat and for listening. See you next time.